If you're having a rough time in the garden, it's probably because your soil sucks. If your garden relies on fertilizer, your soil sucks. Over the past few years, I've been building up all the soil in my permaculture garden. So today, I just wanted to share with you some of the different methods I've used and which ways I think are best. So whether you're growing in raised beds or directly in the ground, stay tuned. Let's start out with the number one best thing you can do to build soil, and that is mulching the soil. Soil needs some sort of covering. You'll see in nature there aren't too many examples where you have exposed soil. Whether plants grow, plants die back and cover it, the soil is always covered. Now a lot of gardeners use mulch to retain moisture and keep the soil cool. That's good. That is something it definitely does. But one of the mistakes that's made is people remove it. And I see on the gardening forums, a lot of people are asking, is it safe to remove my mulch now? Because they're waiting for the pollinators to emerge before they do so. And my advice would be never remove your mulch. This area right here is all dead plants from last year with some of the leaves from the trees mixed in here. And what I did was I let everything die in place and rest on the soil. If we come in here, we can move the mulch off to the side. You can just see how nice this soil looks down in here. That is some good stuff. So instead of removing your mulch to plant, pull it to the side, plant, and then move it back around the base of your plant. And the reason the mulch stays in place is because I don't really build the soil myself. I give the soil what it needs to build itself, and all the creatures underneath this mulch, living in the soil, are the ones that are going to make this soil great. See, as all this decomposes, the worms are going to come up, they're going to feed on it, they're going to put their castings through here, fungi is going to come in, and all sorts of microorganisms. This soil in here was not dug up by me. All I did was give it the mulch, everything came through here, did their job, and I have really deep, rich, nutrient-rich soil with nice worms in there. Look at that, one little handful and we already got a worm. Go back to work, buddy. You don't need to till because worms are nature's tiller. Let's talk about different types of mulch. Like here, I have some dead plants. You can use straw. Just watch out for residual herbicides with straw. That's why I do not like to use straw in my garden. I like to use stuff that I can find on my property. You can use leaves. Here's just some full leaves in a bed here that I'm not going to plant this year. I'm going to cover it up and just let these leaves break down. Next year we're going to use this for nursery stock when all the elderberry and gooseberry cuttings and currants are ready to be planted. Leaves are fantastic. They are full of nutrients. The worms really like them. Keep the soil nice and cool. And if you have trees like me, you have plenty of leaves, and people like to put them in bags in front of their house, and you can take those and bring them and use them in the garden. Here's another good one if you're planting perennials especially, and it's wood chips. Wood chips break down and they give you a fungally dominant soil, which is good for woody perennials such as all these currant bushes here. Honeyberries. Look at all these strawberries coming up right through the wood chips and leaves. Raspberries. Fruit trees. Wood chips are fantastic. And the same thing, just like the leaves and the rotten plants, they're going to retain moisture. The mushrooms are going to come in, they're going to break this down into really nice soil. And if you grow in wood chips, you never have to water. That's how good they are at retaining moisture. And while we're over here, here's another good one. Cardboard. Now some people don't like cardboard because they say it's full of PFAs and all sorts of weird stuff like that. I let nature tell me what's good or not, and when I put cardboard down, the worms and fungi feed on it. And that tells me that this is good. Another one of my favorites is grass clippings. After I'm done mowing the lawn, I like to use them fresh right on the soil. Not too thick because they will heat up. Just a nice thin layer to coat the soil. Then you'll come outside when it's raining or something like that, or overcast, and you'll see worms pulling the blades of grass down into the soil. What I found from going through my lawn when it's raining is the worms like to eat the fresh grass. And in the process, they are aerating the soil and leaving castings. If all you did was mulch you'd build healthy soil. But let's talk about some other ways that I use to build soil. The next way these two ideas go hand in hand, it is cover cropping, also planting super thick. All this green you see growing in this bed right here, it's not weeds, those are radishes. Now here's a cool tip. If you plant radishes, leave quite a few of them, let them flower and go to seed. The flowers are going to be great for the pollinators. You're going to have tons of bees in your garden. They get really big, so when they die back, they can coat the soil and make a good mulch. If you leave them, the bottom part of the radish will actually rot into the soil and feed all that soil life. In the process, those radishes are going to drop seeds all over, and as you can see here, look at all these radishes that pop up. Now, instead of going through here and pulling out these radishes or just scraping them on the soil surface, I'm gonna let all these radishes grow and they're gonna get big. And what I'll do is I'll make a pocket in the radishes and I'll plant stuff like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants. And these radishes are gonna form a living mulch. Their leaves are gonna shade the soil. I'll feed some of the leaves to the chickens. I'll chop some of the leaves off and use them as mulch next to my other plants. And we'll even have some radishes to eat if we want. I like to plant everything super thick, so where I don't have radishes growing that cover the soil, I'm gonna get some plants in here that I can use. I absolutely neglect suggested plant spacing. I plant everything like a foot apart from each other. And if you have good soil, you can do that. And while you're planting nice and thick in here, there's no exposed soil. And when soil's not exposed, soil gets created by the underground microorganisms and worms. So that's a good way to build soil while also planting and growing a great garden. The next way is a real good one. I have a compost pile behind me. It's pretty hot, sitting at about $1.40 right now. Chickens are in here right now making even more compost for me. Look at the work the chickens are doing in here. Got some nice sifted finished compost in here. If you don't have compost, you can buy compost. It's relatively cheap when you get in bulk. And what I like to do is either the spring or the fall, I will sift compost with a 1/2 inch sifter, and I will put about 1 inch on the soil surface. And then when I go to plant, I'll put a little compost in the planting hole itself. That's it. We don't need to till it into the soil. Soil is built from the top down, not the bottom up. No one's tilling the forests or the prairies, and their soil is a lot better than most of the soil we have in our gardens. The cool thing about using compost to cover the top inch of the soil is when the rain comes down, it's going to create compost tea to go down into the soil. Now, compost also doubles as a mulch. So it has not rained in almost 3 weeks here. And if I just go a little down, it is nice and moist in here. Where the roots of the plants are going to be, it's cool, it's got moisture. And there's lots of little bits in here that aren't completely composted. That's all going to feed the worms and fungi. Here's a cool one. Maybe you live by the Detroit River during the walleye run, or you just like fishing. I'll take all the scraps and I'll bury them in the ground. I'll just make a hole here. I'll try not to disturb the soil too much. Then I'll take my fish carcass, drop her in about 6 inches down, and then just cover it right back up. Now, if you don't have fish, you can also take food scraps, rotten meat, stuff like that. You know, a lot of stuff that you don't want to put in your compost because it's going to attract pests. When you take this stuff and you put it underground and bury it, do a good job burying this, you're not going to get any pests coming in here. I've been doing this a while and I haven't even had raccoons or anything come through in here and dig it up. I've even got a spot where I put a dead chicken and a tarantula together, and we're gonna try to grow a giant tomato plant in that location. The final piece of advice I'm gonna give about building soil is a controversial topic, and it's going no-till. It seems like there's this stigma out there that the no-till people are kind of cultist when it comes to gardening and trying to convert everyone to no-till. I'm not gonna do that. If you wanna till, that's fine. But every time you turn up that soil, you are destroying the fungal web. You are killing a lot of those creatures under the soil that make your soil great. That's why a lot of farmers got to add so many different fertilizers when they plant their crops. I don't blame them because at the scale they're doing it with these large fields, you kind of got to go through there with heavy equipment. No-till really isn't the best option for them. So to be a better gardener, I learned to stop pretending that I was a farmer. I stopped tilling. I stopped planting everything in big groups together. I started interplanting. Interplanting confused all the pests. When you build good soil and you don't till, there is no crop rotation necessary. You don't need to rotate crops. As long as you're feeding the soil, everything is going to be back in there that plants need. Even heavy feeding plants like tomatoes, corn, you could plant them in the same spot year after year. A lot of plants in nature just drop their seeds right next to the plant itself and grow more plants right around it. Be a messy gardener. Mulch that soil. Plant chaotically. Get some compost and coat that soil. Promise if you follow these basic steps I just outlined here, you're gonna have a better garden. Your soil is getting better year after year. And the best part is there's no garden cleanup you gotta worry about. All the critters are gonna do it for you. Thanks for watching.